Getting into a new rogue deck. Enjoy it for a while. Key cards get limited because meta decks abuse them. They never get unbanned. Tut, tut, tut. Is that really the rogue deck cycle? Isn't it more like get into new rogue deck, enjoy it for a while, and then it's more like deck gets extortionately power crept within like the next core set. It never gets support. Isn't that more of like the cycle? Anyway, let's jump in. Ah, yes, rogue deck Sky Striker. Striker was pretty bad for like a while.
I think everyone loves an underdog story. The idea of overcoming the odds is a theme that goes all the way back to the beginning of Yu-Gi-Oh! With the iconic Heart of the Cards moment signaling that comeback when all hope is lost. And
can I give you a really hot take about rogue decks? The majority of people who play rogue decks are not playing rogue decks because they particularly specifically like that rogue deck's theme and playstyle. They are playing the rogue decks because they're trying to be edgelords who want to be cool and unique and play something different instead of the same decks as everyone else. Who's caught? Who's caught? Who's caught? Just be honest. It's okay. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Genuinely, if you want to play something unique, that's cool. Just say if you're caught. Because I know that applies to a lot of you.
it's a theme that a lot of players resonate with. You can see how excited players get when old or underutilized decks perform well in competitive events. And while these decks aren't usually winning events, there always seems to be one or two rogue decks that sneak into the top 32. Which really makes me wonder, how big is the power gap between a meta deck...
I think that was a toss format YCS breakdown, by the way, and muskets were there. Like,
and a rogue deck.
Has Musket done anything pre-Link 1?
Considering that they seem to have the capacity to top events in the right hands. And I think the only way to really understand it is to try a rogue deck myself.
Oh! Alright. I wonder what he's picking.
So first
Sometimes people like to, you know, do experiments like this, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna pick a rogue deck. And then they end up picking some, like, Mitsu Fiendsmith slot pile or some shit. Or just, like, some really bad archetype, like Venom. And then, yeah, let's see how we can make this reptile deck. Oh, Mitsu? Oh, and then, yeah, you know how it goes.
I actually want to talk
let's see what
about
deck he
rogue decks
picks
in general. And to be honest, this subject is not really my area of expertise. As much as I love and praise the arts and themes of this game, I actually have a very competitive mindset. And I tend to always just play the best strategy in pretty much any game.
There's too many memes here, man. I can't, my brain can't
so
keep up,
when I make a
which is
mistake,
saying
I
something.
can really only blame myself. And normally what I do is go to r/Master Duel and just try to
Oh yeah, it was
summarize
Oosters
the
who
opinions
topped
of,
with that,
like,
wasn't it?
1,000 angry Redditors. But this time I actually wanted to try something a little different. I wanted to ask someone who returned to the game around the same time as me, but plays mostly casual decks.
Is he also level 35? I'm sorry, I'm not hating. I just can't get over, like, the new player video was him at level 35. I just... Okay, sorry.
Instead of meta decks, and ask their opinion on their experience.
No, I mean that in a very endearing way, okay? I think his content is great. I just do think it's very funny.
Playing rogue decks.
He's 39.
So I invited a friend of the channel, Pepper Wants Yu-Gi-Oh, to this video.
Oh, I remember
so
this person. I've seen some of the reacts
about his experience. First, introduce yourself and tell us when you got back into the game and why you decided to get back into the game.
Live
My
Discord
name is Pepper. I've been streaming for like, what? 3 years, maybe?
Is this Eastern European VTubing? Let's go.
Like 4-5 months ago, I got into a rabbit hole of...
No, this is definitely
watching,
not.
like GX dub moments. I started watching the anime, the first season of GX.
Is this like Italian?
And I was like, oh, I want to play the game now. I was told that I should be
Spanish?
something like Dragon Mates, that I would enjoy that.
Dragon Maid, that's like a Spanish tinge to it,
like,
right?
Competent.
No, it's not
I guess,
French.
Like
No.
usable, viable, and people told me, my chat told me, like, yeah, you're not going to enjoy this.
So I know you've tried a lot of
No,
decks so
I don't think
far.
it's Greek.
What would you say is your top 3 favorite?
Oh, my top 3, without in a specific order, it will be probably Cyber
He's
Dragon,
really rolling those
Nouvelle,
R's. I think it's Spanish.
Oh, Sky Striker. Yeah, Sky Striker.
So
Striker.
what actually drew you to these decks? Was it the art and the themes? Or was it a gameplay loop that interested you?
Well, actually, I feel like I have 3 different answers for each one. Cyber Dragon is because...
Cyber Dragon, that's so Spanish,
like
the way he said
hype
that.
To summon a big monster, like saying it in the anime. It's like...
He's too happy to be French.
Big monster, big number, and I feel like that's cool, right? For Nouvelle, it's like the theme.
Doesn't
like
matter.
Well,
I just think it's interesting.
Cards that are like... The rituals are recipes to summon the dishes. and the guys that brings those recipes are the chef. The fifth world is a restaurant.
So sometimes a
There's
deck is just as
also
simple as that. It's
the
a recipe
menu
that gets a
you let
chef
your
who
opponent
serves the dish.
choose
Like, yeah.
what you're gonna cook for them, basically. And I think like it's a very cool theme. And for Sky Striker, what I really like is the gameplay. The gameplay that I connected the most is with Sky Striker because of how I can just keep drawing stuff and using spells, and they have like powerful spells. And I also play with.
Okay, the way he says spells is so Portuguese. Spells, like that AO, like, you know, that's really Portuguese to me. Anyway, so I'm just really fascinated by this.
Basically one monster at a time, right? And it's like super fun to OTK someone with just one monster. I love that I can go second with it, and it's a very versatile deck. I don't know. I like that.
So a lot of people talk about how this game is unbalanced between decks to deck. In your experience returning back to the game so far,
Who are you
do you find
investigating?
yourself at a disadvantage playing
Accent
these decks?
investigation.
And if you do, how big of a disadvantage do you think it's been?
Does the dish come with a prompt?
I feel like there is not really a disadvantage because most people just don't read the cards. They don't know that if you target something, you trigger a bunch of effects, and I just can tell.
Best way to
they
play a
are
rogue deck. Your opponent doesn't know what
waiting,
the hell's
playing
going on.
after they already messed up, and they just surrender. That has happened so many times. With Cyber Dragon, it's a little easier to understand.
List
And
3
with
more
Cyber
countries
Dragon,
you have a
I really
world
feel
war.
like I'm,
Okay,
a
Brazil,
certain
Argentina,
disadvantage. Like,
Colombia.
there's a sweet spot, I guess, between how
There you go.
complex
I think
it
I've
is and
just
how
started like a 10-year
people
war by
don't
myself.
realize what they are going against, because there are some people that are really playing the meta and they only know how to play against the meta. So when they see something that is new in a certain way, they are like confused. That is my experience with Nouvelle. But if you go second, it's like hard to go against a lot of negates. Going first is like so good sometimes.
Now, out of curiosity, from a pure gameplay standpoint, do you think there's actually a hidden competitive advantage to playing these fun decks?
I feel like there is some kind of advantage. Yeah, I feel like there is an advantage of not knowing and having like pressure of with the time, right? Because sometimes you go into a long combo and that's the hardest part, that they have to read a lot under short period of time. I use the example of like, if you're learning League of Legends, you at least can understand that if you
League
see
of
like
Legends parallel is
or
crazy.
like a fireball coming like right to you, you know.
That's you know, it's a double-edged sword playing rogue decks, because on the one hand, your opponent doesn't know what the hell your cards do, so they like misplay into your effects. But at the same time, if you've ever played in real life with the time rules, like reading cards like takes a while. Like if you just sit and read one Yu-Gi-Oh card, like to fully comprehend it, we're talking like 20 seconds or something, you know, to really understand the conditions, the activation requirements and interaction it might have with a second card and like the graveyard and stuff like that. Like it takes like a good couple of minutes to fully read like a whole deck. And you're gonna have to reread it as well, probably in like the next turn, just to really familiarize yourself with it. So you're wasting a lot of time just with like reading. So that's just real life. In Macedo, you know, that's your opponent's fucking problem. They can deal with the timer, but in real life, it can be a detriment to you as well.
Oh, that next time you have to dodge,
or
them,
just ash their
right?
first search.
You
Yeah,
understand that you got hit by something.
I ash on the first
but
search.
In a
Giga
card
Chad.
game, you cannot do that, right? Your whole board got destroyed, and you understand why, or your cards like got banished, and you understand why. What happened? Or you suddenly cannot activate something and you don't know why if you don't read absolutely everything. The skill of the player is definitely more important than the deck.
And finally, what advice would you give me or anyone else watching who wants to try a casual or fun deck in Master Duel? What should we expect?
So if it's someone who is just getting into Master Duel and they want to start with a casual deck that is fun because they like the theme, I would honestly not advise that. Part of having fun
Don't
is
play
also
a rogue
winning,
deck,
right? You probably have to make some kind of concession and find like a middle ground, something that is playable. For me, at least, it feels like the game is not fun if you don't win, right? Learning the game with a
game is not fun if you don't win.
Truth, it's harder. But if you really like it, you're really passionate, you really know that you like Yu-Gi-Oh or card games, I feel like you can do it. Maybe I feel like a good player can make it work with like if the deck is consistent, at least a good player will get victories with a bad archetype, quote unquote bad archetype. Some bad player who has like a $1,000 deck. Yeah, but if like the deck is not consistent and you break all the time, then it's just harder, you know? That is my perspective, at least. Just add there that I'm just a little guy. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just a silly anime boy on the internet saying stuff. Thank you for inviting me. I honestly wasn't expecting. I feel honored that my input has some value to you.
I just really like.
I want to thank Pepper for actually coming on and sharing some of his insight and experiences.
I like
He brought up
chefs and
some points
recipes.
that I honestly didn't even consider. I left the link in his channel below. After this video, go over there, check him out, show him some love, give him a subscribe.
All right.
I think you guys really like his content.
I'm really curious what we're gonna pick up here.
It's time for me to decide what rogue decks that I want to play. And to give it a fair shake, I actually chose 2 decks. I picked one deck that hasn't seen modern support in a very long time and is universally hated by the majority of the community.
A deck that hasn't had support in a long time and is universally hated by the community. Runic? Blue? True Draco?
And for the other deck, I picked something that's universally loved by the community.
That's not true. That doesn't. Nope. There is no deck that's universally loved by the community. That's not a thing. Nope. Blackwings maybe, but no, that's not. There is no deck that is loved by everyone. Absolutely not. Toons? I don't think most people think about Toons. God, I'm so curious.
It has actually seen some recent modern support. And that way I can compare 2 different rogue decks in this meta to make a more informed opinion.
See, the thing is, I just don't believe that they're, like, Yu-Gi-Oh! As a community, I mean, any gaming community is going to have, like, divisive views and stuff like that. But, like, people don't agree on anything. Blue Eyes? Yeah, you know what? There were some people complaining about Blue Eyes on release, but I think if you complain about Blue Eyes, you are genuinely a little bitch. I don't know how else to put it nicer, but if you were complaining about modern Blue Eyes, you are actually a little baby. Don't play Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, of all the things to complain about is like a pop and a spirit dragon, like, you are such a baby.
So let's start with the first deck that I played, and it's pretty universally hated by a lot of people. And that deck is Floowandereeze.
Hey, I called it. I called it. Yep. Yep. That's a pretty negatively viewed deck.
Now, I can already hear the groans from the comments. Hell, even the guide that I read told me that I lacked a moral compass for playing this deck.
If the points noted above interest you, please know that you lack a moral compass. Wow. I think this guide was written by a plant. I'm sorry, but there's no way you write a deck while admitting that the deck that you are writing the guide for lacks moral or has moral depravity. That doesn't make any sense. It's a plant. It's just a plant.
Which is fair. I did pick it because people hate it.
Wait, I gotta read that. That looks hilarious.
Deck. Which is fair. I did pick it because...
Finally, it's my turn 1, main phase 1. I normal summon, activate Floowandereeze in the Dreaming Town, normal summon Eglin effect, summon Robina effect, bounce back to add Ryza, Mega Monarch, normal summon Robina activated to add barrier statue, Storm with tribute, summon Ryza using Robina and Eglin as tribute for the Ryza effect, return your face down card back to the top of the deck, return 1 card.
People hate it.
Did you just normal summon?
But also, I really love the theme of the deck as well. So, like my other
the theme,
videos,
by the way,
I'm just going to
birds.
give you a really quick lore dump. Floowandereeze is a deck based off of a real bird, the Arctic tern.
Okay, you know what? I was gonna make fun of it, but apparently there's lore. All right, give me the lore. Who's that really famous nature documentary narrator? I should know this as a British person, but Attenborough. That's it. Yeah, we're gonna get like an Attenborough like rundown of the birds.
This is a small seabird that's famous for its record-breaking migration pattern, going from the Arctic to the Antarctic and back in a single year, traveling about 59,000 miles in a single trip. And Konami turned this idea into a
single trip? Wait, no, there's no way.
The story starts with Snow.
When he says trip, you mean that there are breaks, right?
Giving our main characters,
yeah, I mean, they're not Concorde,
Robina,
like,
Elgin,
airplanes.
Tugin, and Sturi, a magnificent map. Guided by the map, the group travels the globe from the North Pole to the South Pole.
Wait, they use a map? There's no way birds can use maps. They have like a navigator on some sort of like, maybe like a ship with like a cook, and they're looking for the One Piece?
New continents, meeting new friends, and encountering
just go
the
straight,
scary
Lamau.
sea before reaching the...
Dude, I've never understand like sailing. Like, how is it hard? Just sail. Like, just go forward. Sorry.
Giant and powerful bird in the South Pole, Empin. And their spells and traps represent different locations or challenges they encountered along their journey. with their main gimmick of normal summoning multiple times a turn, representing the birds landing in different locations along their migratory route. Which brings us to its gameplay.
I'm sorry, of all of like the most boring themes in Yu-Gi-Oh! Please don't hate me, Flu players. Normal summoning represents their breaks as they migrate throughout their journeys. Shut the fuck up, this is not lore.
Floowandereeze is a control deck that's focused entirely on normal summoning and tribute summoning monsters.
God, sorry, I hate the
a
birds.
lot. Which,
I hate
outside
the
of
birds.
the fun and whimsical lore, this was the biggest draw to me picking this most hated deck. Because the deck completely ignores Maxi and Mulcharmy Fuelos, proverbially flipping the bird
Wait till you
at
see
these
Perulia.
cards anytime they're played. And I'll be honest, the idea of turning one of the most universally powerful cards in the game into a complete brick was kind of funny to me. So how did it perform playing in Master Rank? And I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off right away and not sugarcoat it. It's miserable. Let's talk about going second first. Because outside of unexplored wins, decks of this age don't really have built-in ways to deal with going second. You're entirely relying on non-engine to push you to the finish line. And don't get me wrong, going second is a struggle for every deck.
Does this deck play hand traps or breakers? I feel like it should be breakers, right?
Going second cards and engines is more of a modern design philosophy. I've won plenty of games going second with the deck, but it's not thanks to anything Floowandereeze was doing. A lot of games relied entirely on blowout board breakers like Evenly Matched.
How the hell
So how was going first then? And honestly, better, but you can still really feel the deck's age. Your turn has the potential to end to basically any hand trap under the sun. And yes, the deck has ways to dodge imperm with cards like Advent and Swallow, but your opponent has a better chance of drawing a hand trap than you have of drawing Advent with a bird. And despite me somehow having
Is Advent still at
positive win rate
1?
with the deck after 100 games,
I think there's like some flu cards still hit, right?
Like an absolute struggle. And for what it's worth, I can see why the supervillains of this world love Floowandereeze. But the difference between that deck and something like Draco Tail is honestly just night and day. And it really feels like there's no amount of good deck building choices that you can make to really bridge that power gap between the two decks. But like I said, I played two decks.
So like that comes from like a design like restriction of Floowandereeze. When a deck is like completely separated from the extra deck, there's only so many ways to give it power. And like in the scale of, you know, Yu-Gi-Oh card design of like a card, it's like, you know, you can have like Flu, and then you can have like, I don't know, it's like a random archetype here, like Mitsu, right? Like Floowandereeze's power is like in the absolute dirt, right? Like it's not a powerful deck. But the way it gets other decks down here is with its in-engine floodgates, right? So you've got like the big like evil bird, Empen himself, yes. And that's where like this giant dip comes from. It's just a floodgate, and it has to bring it all the way down here, whereas other decks, their power level is up here, and they fall down here because they have cards like Empen, they have cards like Shifter. How do you draw Shifter? Wee, wee. Something like this, yeah. Like that's just that's how it works, because there's no extra deck because of the restriction and the lock on the deck. Floowandereeze cannot use its extra deck at all. I mean, I think it can, but you need to already have the birds up, but then you can't use their effects. So it's got like a really heavy restriction. You can technically use your extra deck, but you basically won't be able to like use your archetype to be able to do it. So how do you make a deck bridge that gap? Well, you just, you know, you have to bring every other deck down with you, basically.
And this other deck seems...
So, you know, in terms of aging, I mean, it's only going to be as good as the floodgate. So if there's ever like a link format, I mean, I guess Empen can be good. You know, maybe you can beat Malice. But the problem is that Malice actually can do a lot by getting the trap cards. So in-engine ways to deal with Empen is possible. So it's actually not even well positioned into like a link format.
Seems to be universally loved, so hopefully I'm going to gain a little brownie points back with you guys. And it's also a deck that receives some modern support.
A deck that received modern support that's universally loved. He better not fucking say Monarch, I swear to God, because that is not a universally loved deck, not even close.
And that deck is... And damn, this deck is a lot of fun.
You can't say it's not popular. Universally loved? I don't know about that, but it is very popular.
Sky Striker feels like it's one of Konami's babies, being even the cover art for the app itself for a while now. And I promise, pulling a Royal Ace Zero as my guaranteed Royal in the Minenko bundle only had a lot of it to do with the reason
You
why
got
I
a
picked this deck.
A0. What did I get from my guaranteed Royal? I think I got like some garbage Ursa Arctic card, didn't I? Oh, it was miserable. I did not get something good.
I'm really glad I picked it.
Ursa
And as
Arctic
much as I'd
Synchro,
love
Jesus
to give
Christ.
you guys the lore dump that I normally do, this deck's lore is just a literal light novel. And we'd probably be here for like an hour. But if you're interested like I was, Konami actually made a few animations that you can find in solo mode and also on YouTube. And it'll cover the most crucial of plot points. So Sky Striker can actually be played
Ray
two ways.
dressing
One
herself
as a
up and putting
blind
on her
second
stockings
OTK
was
deck,
really
and the other
important
is
to
a
the
going
animation.
first
It's
control
integral
deck.
to the plot.
I
That's why
chose
it
the
was there.
going
It had
first
to be
control
there.
deck version because that
An
just
important
interested me more.
like aspect
And
of
to be honest, a
storytelling.
lot of the issues that I had with Floowandereeze, I don't have at all with Sky Striker. The deck's
Gunnar asked,
consistent.
yeah, I wonder why it's
It
popular.
has built-in ways of dealing with going second. It has plenty of options to extend past Interruption. And it has cards like Engage, which is probably the best tutor I've ever seen in this game. Throw on top of it that playing it as a go first deck can still do the OTK and close out a game on an empty board state. And when you bring all of this together and throw in the fact that it actually has a pretty good Draco Tail matchup, the deck plays and feels like it should be higher on the tier list.
Why is Striker
So what's
not
the
doing
catch?
much
Where's
better?
this power
It is
gap?
pretty
What makes
good,
Draco
to
Tail
be
the
honest.
literal best deck in the game and Sky Striker untiered? And after playing 100 games with the deck, I think I kind of figured it out. And this is just a bit of a theory,
Draws at
but bear with me.
2.
I think it has to do with how forgiving these decks are to mistakes. And when I say mistakes, I don't mean just outright misplays. I'm talking about situations where you just make a wrong read on what interruption your opponent has or is going to use against you. And a deck like Draco Tail is very forgiving to those mistakes. Even if you make a horrendous mess up, you generally still have a way to end on some sort of half board. Where if you make a wrong read on a deck like Sky Striker, it can literally result in ending on a board with 0 interruption. And this seems to be the trend with most modern rogue decks. It's not a lack of powerful plays and powerful cards, but instead it's a lack of flexibility when the game starts to not go your way. And it's not a power gap that can be easily
It depends on the deck, right?
You aren't just counting
Some
up
rogue
the amount
decks
of
are
interactions the deck
low-key
can play
kind
through.
of
Like, oh, Draco Tail
able
can
to keep
generally
going if
play through
they're
2 interruptions, and Floowandereeze can
if you make a
generally play
mistake,
through 0
if they're powerful
interruptions.
enough.
But instead we're trying to measure
it kinda
this by
warrants
how
that your opponent
well a
doesn't have
deck can recover
interruptions.
from its mistakes. And I think from that angle, there is a really big power gap between the two decks. With Striker, you have to play perfectly. And with Draco Tail, you can make a ton of mistakes and still win games. Trust me, I was that Draco Tail player making a ton of mistakes and winning games still. Where I rarely win games when I make a mistake.
I think Striker's hard to play in the sense that, yeah, if you do make a mistake, it can be pretty egregious. But Striker also, I think conventionally recently, has been basically a board breaker deck. It's a very binary pass-fail type of mechanic when you play board breakers, right? So it's like you either just draw the absolute nuts where it's like, I don't know, evenly Widow Anchor just absolutely destroys a whole deck, right? Like legitimately, if you play against like Onomat Ryzeal and you draw like 2 or 3 breakers like Widow Anchor, like you win the game on the spot, legitimately. So the idea of like skill there is, I mean, it's really just like sequencing your board breakers correctly, which is not that hard to mess up usually. But it depends on the deck. It depends on the archetype.
With Sky Striker. And I think that's a real power gap to consider, and why there's such
It's
a big
10 pie with a
chasm
woman.
between the two. Even though
Sure.
on paper the decks are very similar in power. So in the end, what do I think of this? Is the vocal minority of Reddit right when they tell people that their favorite deck is unplayable? And while I don't think the answer is as black and white as they make it sound, I think I actually need to give the point to Redditors for this one. I was fully ready to defend rogue decks in this video and be like, oh, the power gaps aren't that bad. I was fully expecting it to be an overreaction. But after trying it for myself, there's truly a chasm between tier 1 decks and rogue decks. And I think there's definitely degrees to it. Like a more modern rogue deck like Striker is a lot closer in power to Draco Tail than a deck like Floowandereeze, which hasn't seen a new card in 5 years. And it should probably stay that way. And the older the deck gets, the harder it is to solve the deck's weaknesses through deck building. And eventually it gets to a point to where no matter how good of non-engine choices you make, you're not going to bridge that power gap. And don't get me wrong, I love that these decks can still exist, and that dedicated players can still find ways to
Hey, maybe
steal
that's what
games
Genesis
from
was for,
the
huh?
best decks in the
Oh,
game.
wait.
I think it's something to celebrate that these old decks don't have a 0% win rate. They can still perform their strategy in modern-day Yu-Gi-Oh! And find success. But I can also recognize that
You little
decks like
hater.
these aren't reliable, and they honestly make the game way harder than it needs to be. So yeah, I think there's a massive power gap in this game, which is to be expected in any game with power creep. But I think the difference between the two is actually a little more than I expected. But what do you guys think? How does Konami even address an issue like this? Is the answer more generic slop engines that can just be slotted into any deck? Maybe they put out a suite of cards that support specific subtypes. Or maybe we just accept that they can't resolve it, and that these decks are pretty much just a relic of the past, and tell ourselves it's just time to move on and play a more modern deck. I'm really curious to see what you guys have to say. And if you made it this far in the video, let me know what your favorite pet deck is. And if you're one of the dedicated players who still plays it to this day, or if you had to drop it, and why? What kind of issues have you guys ran into trying to play your favorite casual decks in a modern Yu-Gi-Oh environment? I'm really curious to see the answers. But until next time, I hope you guys all have a fantastic day. I love you guys. Bye.
I think it's sort of just like to use a sports ball analogy. Why do some people only watch like local football? Like they'll go to the stadiums week in and week out, and they'll support their like literal like 5th division like team, but they won't watch like Premier League or anything like that. Right? It's like some people like you just kind of accept at a point that like you are just within a specific sort of band and threshold, and that's just where you want to be. Right? Like a lot of rogue players just accept and like that Yu-Gi-Oh for them is just within this like tier 3 sort of like bubble. You know what I mean? And they're okay with playing a format that the best deck is like Speedroids or Six Samurai and stuff like that. So I don't know. It's just about I guess like where you view yourself as a player, and then, you know, like I said at the start, a lot of it can just be like, oh, I'm just trying to be like a hip cool dude who only plays rogue decks. But a lot of that is I think kind of related to like where you want to play the game and what that location means to you, you know. Anyway, interesting video. As always, go subscribe to Crispy Applesauce. He's got nice interesting discussion videos, so check him out.